Hello everyone, here's my review for You Season 2. Season 2 of You continues to follow Joe Goldberg as he moves to LA after the mess that he left at the end of the last season. I don't think the second season of You is better than the first season, but it's far from what I would call a true downgrade. I think in most respects it's actually just as good as the first season. A lot of the elements that I really enjoyed about season 1 still ring true here. Penn Badgley gives a just as good, if not better, performance than he did in season 1. And he's joined by Victoria Pedretti across from him as the love interest, who is a solid replacement for Elizabeth Lail, and Jenna Ortega, who really acts her ass off in a couple scenes with Penn Badgley directly. There are maybe 2 or 3 scenes where it's just them talking to each other, and they both do really well. Like, their acting chops in those scenes are of a much higher caliber than what you would think this show would provide. Blake Neely's music is also still quite good. I like the synth direction that he goes in. I think it fits the subject matter and tone of the series quite well. But in regards to writing, one of my concerns with You was whether or not it was going to get repetitive. And I can safely say that the second season, at least, is really not repetitive at all. Sure, the setup is similar, but it gives Joe enough different situations to get himself out of to feel pretty fresh. And his character is actually quite different too. Without getting too into spoiler territory, his inner monologue and his actions indicate that he really is trying to be a better person. How well he succeeds at that is, I guess, up to the viewer though. And I think that might be where season 2 actually outclasses the first season, is in making Joe a protagonist that you really kind of start to feel bad for. Because there were hints of that in season 1, and I do think this season goes a little too in-depth to his backstory. I think the mystery was part of the intrigue with his character, but what they give us about his backstory and his actions in the present day make him easier to empathize with. And that's not necessarily better, but I think for the direction that this season was going, it's really interesting. Now, I think the balance of comedy is not quite as good this season. It's still funny, don't get me wrong, but I think it starts to be funny in some of the wrong ways. And that's not to do with Joe's character, that's just to do with other things that are going on in this season. Season 2 also gets pretty hectic. Now, towards the end, in the last 3 or 4 episodes, the chaos is mostly to its benefit. Once again, what this show is good at is locking Joe in a situation and forcing him to get out of it. And that chaos adds tension to that in the last couple episodes. But there are some moments where it feels like it's getting a little bit too chaotic, which is, again, not to say it's bad, because I still quite enjoyed this season. Overall, I think if you enjoyed the first season of You, it's likely you'll also enjoy the second. It may not be an improvement, but I would definitely recommend continuing the show. So with that, I'm going to give season 2 of You an 8.3 out of 10. This season surprised me. I thought maybe it was going to get a little bit repetitive, but it didn't. So thank you all for watching. Stick around for more reviews of You. I am planning on finishing out the series, and I'll talk to you all in the next one.